Welcome everyone, and you are listening to The Last Dinosaur, and I'm your host, Chris Arasano. On today's edition of Tell Me More Tuesday, we're going to talk about a topic you may hear often if you're a newbie to maritime industry, and that is laytime and demurrage. They go hand in hand, both words not really used outside the industry. And then we're going to talk about, from the digital side, something that is used outside of the digital industry and used in shipping. It's called quality assurance, and we're going to talk about how quality assurance in the digital world is used. First, let's talk about laytime, because that's the lead point, and then we'll talk a little bit about demurrage. The laytime is a number of hours allotted to the cargo owner by the ship owner to load and discharge the entire cargo. Normally, this number is used for both sides, loading and discharging. Sometimes it's not, but most of the times it is. The time starts generally when a notice of readiness is tendered at a load port. Like anything else in shipping and the charter party, there are caveats and time allotments for moving to the berth and other stoppage events. But in general, when that time is all used up, then the laytime is done and the voyage is considered on demurrage. For most standard non-negotiated charter parties, and I'm going to talk about in the tanker world, which is what I'm familiar with, you get 72 hours for laytime. For bigger ships, for VLCCs or the very large crude carriers, that could be 96 hours or 108 hours. And for the smaller ships, that number is smaller. But generally, that's what you would get. So what does this all mean? Well, let's use an example, again on the tanker side. During the commercial negotiation, the cargo owner and the ship owner, in addition to negotiate the number of laytime hours, will negotiate a demurrage rate. That is the daily rate that the charterer will pay the owner if the number of hours that is needed to discharge and load the cargo, again, with all the pre-negotiated deductions, is exceeded. This number is expressed in a dollar amount and prorated on a daily basis. So, if you have a ship with a demurrage of $20,000 a day and there are 48 hours of demurrage time, the owner will get an additional $40,000 of revenue. This is, of course, after all the laytime is actually used. Things to know about demurrage. It's not always the earnings of the ship. In low markets, the demurrage rate tend to be above expected earnings, and vice versa in very high markets. Also, the number of hours used are often negotiated after the voyage is complete and the freight's paid. And this, again, goes into the interpretation of the charter party. Before we pivot to our digital term, like I said, there is a lot of caveats and other types of nuances to this, and there have been books written about laytime and demurrage and how it's calculated. That's a very high-level view. Pivoting now to our digital topic, which is quality assurance. Like other parts of any industry, there is a quality assurance aspect to the digital world. And we have, for example, at Q88 and at Vesson, we have a whole QA department. And the way it works is this. They basically make sure that when I, as a product manager, work with our development team and we put in a new feature, we have to test it. I will test it on a kind of a user level to make sure that if I'm a user using the product, it works well. Then our quality assurance team comes in and they really run it through the ringers. They'll do tests that are automated and they'll really actually try to break the product to make sure that whatever the developer did at a given time didn't have an unintended consequence of breaking something else. And this is, let's think about it in our industry. These are the same people who make sure that all the pumps work, that the steering gear works, and everything works on a ship before the ship leaves the shipyard. I think that's the best way to do it. I, as a mate on board, can go, yeah, the steering gear works or the radar is working, but I just kind of give it a quick look. You have a quality assurance person who makes sure that they run it through a whole sequence of tests to assure that when you're in the middle of the ocean, it doesn't break down. And these are the people who do the same thing here on digital platforms. I hope you enjoyed this installment of Tell Me More Tuesday. Please don't forget to like, follow, subscribe to the podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Chris Arasano, wishing you fair winds and following seas.